make sure our audio is working here. Come on. Open up in the browser. I can't tell if it actually is properly working or not. I think my starting soon is louder than me. Okay, no, it does sound like it's working. Okay, that's fine. It works. Alright. Let me turn off my headphones here. I'll make the tweet. March 9, yippee. Putting the hashtags. March 9. Alright. I think we're all good. Okay. Okay. I think we're good to go. Alrighty. 1 second to take a drink. Probably gonna need more of a drink later, but we'll see. Alright, let's go to the camera. And wait. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that flash there. Alright. We're here. Sorry that I am late. Actual, like, real explanation. I did essentially wake up late. But I woke up, like, I want to say, like, half an hour before my alarm. And that was a little bit too early for my body. I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I'll go to sleep and then I'll wake up to my actual alarm. And then I made the average human mistake of, no, you're not waking up past your alarm. And I have two, and I just slept past both of them. And I slept past another like good few hours and all this sort of shit. And by the point I woke up, it was already like the actual time to start streaming. It was like 4:30. So we weren't gonna do it at 4:30. I did set it to 5:30. That wasn't going to happen either. I just wanted to set it to that just in case something went wrong, right? Just in case I had to set up for a while. Anyways, we're here now. Also, just random thing with the background. Don't mind the fact that Rao's not there anymore. He is currently undergoing surgery. I fucked up slightly. Part of it was my fault, and part of it was also just randomly shit happening with the figure. I don't know why. He's been up there for months, and only now is there a problem. So I guess something happened, but now he's got to be fixed a bit. When he goes back up, I'm going to probably put him on a stand, and then I got to figure out where to put maybe some of the others, because I don't know that they'll fit with the stand on there. We'll see, right? I don't mind necessarily, having to fix a figure like that or anything like that. I mean, like, Gotank's up there is fixed, believe it or not. He might look exactly like he's supposed to with the actual, how his figure is. He's fixed because I also had a problem with him once. That said, it was a problem while I was trying to, like, put him in place for the very first time when I took him out of the box. So, he's different, right? He was immediate. Rao was I don't know where this shit happened. And again, partially it's my fault, partially I don't know what the fuck happened. But in regards to figures, hey, there's a new one right there. I'm sure. I don't know how well that comes out on the camera, but it should be recognized. Let me see how well the quality looks on that. Maybe you guys can tell what it is. You can kind of see it's in the shadows, so it's hard to fully see, but I think the shadows is a perfect place for her. Seeing as there's another ReZero figure there, it should be obvious on who that is based on color and, some of the skin showing and everything. I got it. There it is. Uh, yeah, that figure is very nice. She's very tall, so I was surprised taking it out of the box, and I was like, damn, right? I knew pop-up parade figures were kind of like decently tall and all that, right? Because I got my brother some free run ones a while back, but I was just surprised to see like, oh, this massive box, and then here's her really tall coming out of it. I was like, oh, is she even gonna fit on the shelf? She does, thankfully. But okay. Anyways, enough of me rambling about all my figure stuff and everything. Let's talk about today and this stream. So I wanted to make this a triple to end it off. I was really looking forward to that. But I miscalculated last week. I will fully admit to that. I miscalculated last week. If we had gone on the schedule that I had mentioned, things might have been all right. But there was stuff that was delayed and everything like that. Ooh, excuse me. Like, for example, I figured that Thursday and Friday might not be that bad, and originally it wasn't, right? Despite the fact that I had an appointment to go to on essentially both of those days, but then it just became Thursday. Um, I viewed it as something not that bad. And I was just like, okay, that's fine. We can do that. Whatever. Um, then Pay drops a fourth chapter. And this, I'm not gonna lie, situations like this is where I'm not huge on the idea of him dropping the bonus light novel chapter, online out of nowhere, right? I appreciate it for the fact that, like, everybody gets to have it and all this sort of shit, but like technically speaking, I don't even know if the light novel like properly came out just yet or whatever it may be. But technically speaking, light novel readers presumably get to see that first, right? It's early access. I don't mind the thought of that. Let me actually change that up. Um, I'm not opposed to the thought of that, but it is unfortunate when you're in my sort of scenario where you're just reading through these on stream and all this, and you have a review to like on the way, because then we now have a problem where I could have finished off these few chapters. I wouldn't have been, you know, any wiser to the fact that there would be another chapter, and I would end up making a review, and then another chapter would drop, and that would be an issue to me. Like, it's not the first time that I've taken an extra chapter and stapled it to the next review. I've done that before, but when it's already in the middle of all this, when I haven't actually finished it just yet, and now we have to finish it and all this, and like I have the review on the way, right? It's a lot harder to ignore and not just staple to the next one. So we kind of have to put it as a part of this. That created a problem because that was okay. Even though I have an appointment, I can do the first chapter or two before I have to go, and then we come back and I restart the stream. Right? We do it over again. Let me just pull my headphones down here. Um, we do it over again, right? We do another stream and we just finish it off with the last chapter, right? That was that was essentially the mentality I was going through, right? Um, but that didn't work because now that there's like a fourth chapter, it's like okay, so I would have to do two. The first one here is already long, but I would have to do two, take a break in terms of the appointment happening, and then do two more. We would be here for a while, right? I don't know what the last two chapters are like in length, but I personally think we would be here for a while. So I was like, maybe not, right? And I was worried because I totally forgot about the weekend, right? I'm like, fuck the weekend. Like, that's the optimal time to do all this streaming, technically. I mean, it fucks over the review, right? The review doesn't come out when I would hope it would, but I kind of view that as like, oh wait, but the weekend's like still a good time to do so. Not really, because my Friday stuff got canceled, and I already had plans for what I was gonna do for Friday, in terms of Act Two stuff and all this, and maybe just like relax a little bit, you know, be with some pals, and then to focus some more on Act Two and everything, which I've done, right? That Act Two's first chapter is, oof, it is hefty in terms of length. Um, but I already had that plan for Friday, so I'm like, okay, you know what? That's fine. That just gives me more time to do that, and then weekend, I can finally start all this. No, because the weekend I got way more busy than I thought I was going to, so that didn't happen, right? And then Monday rolls along, and I'm just like, or like, essentially yesterday, and I'm just like, I'm just like so bewildered with all this shit going on right now and everything. I'm gonna set the stream to tomorrow, right? Or essentially today now, right? And I just sat there and I went, I'm just gonna work on the stuff that I need to just again chill out for a moment because this is all like just a little too overwhelming on me in terms of all this shit happening at once. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna just chill the fuck out. And when tomorrow arrives, I will properly stream. We'll do the chapter like reading sessions. I don't know why I had to think of a complicated name for that. Uh, and then yeah, and that was as simple as it was, right? And now we're here, albeit yeah, a bit late, but nah, I say a bit like it wasn't like half an hour essentially. Um, but we're here, and that's what matters. And then the next one we'll probably do on Thursday. That's what I'm gonna aim for. Uh, Ideally, what we do here is that we have the next one on Thursday, and then after we do that one on Thursday, uh, like pretty much immediately, either at night or just if I have to on Friday, I record that review. We get the review ready, and then it is up by the weekend, right? It's up by Saturday or Sunday. Could be up by Friday, depending on how late I'm working on it, but obviously I don't want to be up too late just working on a review. So probably Saturday or Sunday. If we're lucky, it's Friday. We'll see, right? But very likely the weekend. Um, so still works out overall. E- Everything's still in the way as normal. It's just this has been a little bit more stressful than planned. Which actually reminds me, I need to make a very quick announcement to some pals. Give me one moment because I totally forgot. There is one more thing to mention. Okay, yeah, sorry, I was distracted for a moment. Uh, one left. Get your votes in or perish. Smiley. The form closes tonight. Let me just send a gift just because. All right. So, yeah, sorry. I had to make an announcement to some pals because I totally forgot. This is an announcement I need to make here as well. The Rumble form. It is currently September 30th. There's no 31st in September. I had to double check. Which means tonight is the last night you can vote or change your vote on the end of the year Rumble choices, right? The, Tonight is the final night. Past, as soon as the clock hits 12 a.m., I close that form, right? And everything is decided there. So, with that noted, uh, Essentially exactly what I mentioned. This is the only time, this is the only day left of this year where you can actually vote for the characters. If there's anybody you're interested in, like seeing, participate or whatever it may be, essentially do so now. Get that stuff ready, right? Maybe not do so now as in like right fucking now, right? But just this stream most likely. So I already checked what the next chapter length is. I tried not to spoil myself. I saw auto art. I don't know if that matters too much. Um, excuse me. I didn't see too much of the art. I just saw it was auto. But this stream will probably go on to about, I'm gonna say 8 or 9, right? Very likely, like 8, maybe 8:30 my time, right? Um, so doing the math on that, there's about 4 to 3.5 hours left of essentially the day. Would it be 4? Yeah. Essentially the day after the stream is done, right? So essentially think of it like that, right? There's about 4 hours or so, maybe give or take, right? By the point that the stream is done for that poll to go down, or I guess forum, not really a poll. Technically could be viewed as a poll, I guess, because it's multiple, like you can still fill it in. Regardless, um, only like 4 hours, give or take, like I said, uh, once the stream is over. So that's the amount of, a lot of time you'll have to actually do all this, right? Just all I'm saying. I don't know if there's gonna be too many differences here or there, but I did want to warn people because it's like we're approaching the end here, right? We are approaching the actual end where now I have to start getting ready for the Rumble, right? And it won't take long, I personally don't think, because I'm giving myself 2 months in advance to do so, right? But just want to note it, just to say, hey, in case you really want to change something or you want to vote for something new, tonight's the night. Okay, so with that said, I might even make like I was thinking about making chapters for the live streams where you can just click, where to go. I might make that an important announcement just for today because, if somebody watches it later, because I've noticed that it's like, people tend to jump into the stream after the fact, which I don't mind. Um, but if that happens and everything, it's like, I might want to just put that warning in there, just like, hey, just in case you're still watching this within the time that this came out. All right. So, in regards to today's chapters, yeah, I already checked how long they were. Uh, the first one we already know. The first one we checked last time, it was 9,000 words. We realized we're not doing that, right? It was a big thing of like, maybe if it was short, we would, but then it was like, no, 9,000 words, fuck that. We're saving it for next time, right? Um, The one after this, though, I did check, and it is 4,000 words, which is very short. That is not bad at all. That will not take very much time at all. It's mainly just going to be this chapter, like this one we're reading, that's going to take a while. And then after this chapter is over, uh, yeah, it shouldn't take too long until the end of the stream, but yeah. And then Thursday is what I'm aiming for the next. That's when we'll do the final two, right? Would have been a triple today to just finish it off, had an extra chapter not released, but that's all right. So, without further ado, I think all this stuff is ready. Let me actually, there is something I should do. Let me get the pop out chat. Just because. Go with the pop out chat. Yep. Alrighty. I also want to double check something. Let me just see. Okay. All right. Everything's all good. Just wanted to be sure. All right. All right. Make that the live chat. Extend it a bit so that, it takes up more of the screen. Whew. I am so tired, I won't lie. But I have enough energy to actually do this, right? I'm tired because woke up, technically speaking, not too long ago, like an hour ago at this point. But uh, it's not necessarily tired, as in like I'm too tired to do all this. I should turn my phone on silent. See, this is how you know. This is how you know I just fucking woke up not too long ago. I guess we really did kind of start at 5:30, but 5:30 implies I was going to be rambling at that time, so it's better than I expected, you know, in a certain sense. That's what I have to turn off, and I think everything is good after that. Okay, all right. Let me take a quick drink one more time. All right, we're good to go. I hope this works. I mean, it's worked before, but I hope, of course. Of course, when I say, oh, it's worked before, so, it should. Uh, I guess what I can do, hold on. See, I'm noticing the problem. It's when it comes directly from the, like, essentially tab that I'm using. So what always happens. All right, pop out chat. Now it should be totally fixed. Now there should be zero issues. Let me put it back. If somehow this creates an issue, I will be floored because the WCT tab was here first. Literally how? Literally how the WCT one was here first. Hold on. Okay. I know for the future, I guess. But that is so strange. I don't know why twice it went to that one. And it wasn't even correct either time in terms of it like being the first tab to appear. Ooh, we are a mess today. But that's alright. We've had worse times with live reading sessions. For example, I think last time was the time where I was constantly just trying to focus on pronouncing stuff. That was that was fun. Okay. Witch of Touristia. Beautiful art. And then yeah, this can be quite a long chapter. So new vow, and it's to never be picky about anything. Interesting. We might have read that before, I don't remember. Um I won't lie, originally I was debating on like maybe it would have been better to just read these chapters on my own, but I feel like that's a bit fucked up, right? I'm sure a lot of people want to see the general like reaction to all this, so as much as it's like it might not be a horrid idea to just go through and read it on my own time. Ooh, excuse me. For the sake of being, concise about it. I don't know. I see a fucking wall down there. Oh boy. The Witch of Touristia, Petra Lighty. To begin with, how had Petra ended up in a position to receive the Witch Factor of Touristia? The reason why the original proper, proprietor, Klein, had been unable to take on the role was because he had a duty that only he could fulfill, because he was the one who had to subdue the divine dragon Volcanica. And ultimately, let me move my mouse. And ultimately, anybody other than him could have served the role of proprietor just fine. Naturally, there were some who had been less suited to utilizing the authority of Touristia than others, as well as those such as Amelia and Melee, who would serve as capable fighters even without it, and Rem, who had her own role to play, and thus were quickly excluded from uh, candidacy. Or candid, you know what I mean. Uh, However, even after leaving out those girls, there were still plenty of candidates. Hence, the greatest reason why the other final remaining candidates, Ram and Ramji, were set aside in favor of selecting Petra to hold the witch factor, was due to decisions based on more than just comprehensive fighting strength. Simply put, Petra had the topmost ability to wield the authority. About the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, that Roy bastard. Given that he insists on devouring everything he can get his hands on, the amount of moves he's got to play can't be anything ordinary. What are we gonna do? Close quarter, mid range, and long distance combat will all be troublesome to perform. Foul play, like the young master. If he's the same as Reinhard, then how the hell or anyone supposed to win? Don't you be kicking up such a loud racket. Grassus, don't you be saying such thoughtless things. It'll only serve to overwhelm them. Ha, you're all quite close. If you already feel like you've won, care to share that feeling with Ram? This girl's got quite the sharp tongue. Though I get that this maid Ne-chan is trying to, or what this maid Ne-chan is trying to say. What do we got? We'll keep up the fundamentals like this. The opponent indeed's got cards to play no matter the distance, but, no matter how many cards he's got in his hand, he's only got one head to choose which of them to play. If we continue attacking in waves, he'll inevitably end up playing the wrong card. Even without that, the opponent's wounds are deep. It is kind of it's almost a little hard to follow with this, but I mean, I've done this before. I'm guilty of this before. Once he gets impatient, he will end up wanting to force a progression of the situation. Quite brilliant, Ram Soma. Heh, my Ramji is amazing, isn't he? Indeed, we will be counting on Ram Soma. Clap, or clap clap, Ram Soma. We're in the midst of putting our lives on the line for crying out loud. Sorry to interrupt while you're all having fun, but there's a lot I have to say to Hungry Horse King Chan and the others. So, so it sort of feels like my head is about to split apart, you know? Sorry. There we go. I wouldn't be shocked if that took up a decent amount of time on the actual like chapter, considering that massive, wall of text. Okay, back in we go. I still gotta figure out what I'm doing for the thumbnail of the review, but I'll get to that when we get to that. With that, the contents of a war council, equivalent to if they had gathered face to face and had discussed earnestly, were compressed to have happened in a single instant by Petra, exercising the authority of Touristia. Interesting. That's really interesting. The just based on how that's said, that implies that this conversation is all like happening quickly because of the witch factor, which I find very intriguing that it's capable of that. If true, of course. Uh having also exerted compressions on the thought processes for all of them to conceive their best ideas, she had done so. If we can compress the distance and time for traversal, like Kleinsen's been doing, then it should also be possible to compress things like thinking time and discussion time. Exactly. Okay, so that's exactly what they're going for. An essential component of such conceptual type abilities is that type of paradigm shift. Since Klein Nisama has always continued to use it the same way, I guess he's just way too blockheaded. While concentrating on the intricacies of operating the authority, Petra bantered with the translucent imaginary Subaru. They were amidst combat. Ordinarily, one might be tempted to complain how distracting it was, but in the particular case of the current Petra, her exchanges with Subaru were proving to be a source of great relief. The small box in which the witch factor of Tricia was preserved, concealing that which she had inherited from Klein in her breast pocket, Petra continued to experience firsthand the dreadful force of attraction brought about by this power. Sorry about that. Probably shouldn't be saying this, but the term attraction just fits way too perfectly. Likening the sensation to that of being irresistibly drawn in by attraction, Petra scolded herself. Were she to let her mind relax for even a second, the witch factor would immediately tempt Petra with thoughts such as, you could try this, and you could even try that, attempting to remove an important shackle binding one to their humanity. Without that, or anything to hold on to, she felt like she would surrender to the sensation of being swallowed up as she shakily? Yeah, I guess, stared down over the edge of a great cliff. But, but that's a no-go. So, interesting what they're saying here in regards to the witch factor and everything. We kind of knew this all along, but it's interesting that it's a very tempting sort of thing. Like, it constantly tries to lead you astray in a certain sense, is what they're kind of getting at with this, which I like. It reminds me a lot of, similarly, what we know with, Rem and Ram and all that, where it's like you take out the horn and it tries to, talk you into going the wrong way, right? Like you take it out for, being strong and trying to protect others and all this, but meanwhile, the horn is literally saying, or you could just kill, right? You could just have fun, right? Um, so interestingly, this is being presented in a very similar light, where it's like, oh yeah, you can use a witch factor as is, or it tries to, bring you to the side, which makes me wonder about every single person we've met with one, right? Rather, the people who are very clearly unstable with it, it makes me wonder about that, right? In terms of like, I guess especially Satella, right? Like Satella's a very interesting case in that regard, because as much as the obvious thing of she's not compatible with it, um, there's also something to account for when it comes to the fact that uh Satella might have been, overall trying to fight it in a certain sense, but it kind of again pushes you to the side and shows you an alternative route that you can take. So it's real interesting. It's real interesting to see what this is like based on what they're saying. Quick drink. Yeah. I'm feeling like oh we're making great progress with this chapter so far, and it's like we just started, and it's like 9,000 words. There's no shot we're making good progress so far. Uh, right. We had to actually scroll down. So technically speaking, we're making better progress than I thought. But the sensations of omnipotence, a sweet nectar intoxicating to the likes of man, which factors were prone to exploiting those weak hearts of humans, and yet their way of going about it took the form of offering, well, how about this, as a means to grant that which one desired most, which is what I was talking about. The more one treasured something, the more they harbored a wish that they could not relinquish. That harder it would become to resist its allure. Very interesting. Certainly, neither the Witch of Greed nor the former Sin Archbishop of Sloth, Pedrogius Romani Conti, had been exceptions. Even Petra did not know what might have happened to her if she had lacked a means to sustain her sense of self. However, Petra, Tonshin need a follow up. Consan, Yeah, I guess. Consan's on break after all. Leave it to me. As that gallant, boyish voice struck the eardrums of her heart, Petra exercised her authority. As Ratchins and Gaston agonized over how they ought to handle the onslaught of the brandishment of the blood scythes and the befouling downpour, she compressed their processes of thought and communication having them select the best course of action. Notice how he's doing I'm just, I read like befoulment, or befouling, I guess, uh, and all this, and I'm like noticing how I'm getting less mixed up on this chapter because there's just a lot less being thrown in there out of nowhere that just like stun locks me. The pair immediately made a switch to dealing with the approaching assault. Gaston caught the sanguine scythe with his flow method, and Ranchins unloaded a Gatling volley of fireballs into the befoulment, magnificently tiding them over. Seeing that, Subaru gave a thumbs up, and Petra also returned the gesture. That's it, Petra. Just like that. You're so cool. Even if it was just an illusion and not more, the way her beloved was smiling for her cheered her heart to high spirits. This was it. Thanks to this, Petra could transcend her limits while remaining as Petra. Unlike the many who had been enthralled by witch factors throughout history, Petra was not alone. That was what kept Petra from falling into corruption as the Witch of Touristia. That is also an interesting point. Also, after all, um, that is also an interesting point to make. The idea that she's not alone and has people to essentially fight alongside and everything, being this means to keep her sane, right? I like that. Ooh, excuse me. Because, like, when it comes to Betelgeuse, we know it was out of desperation, right? We know he had to use that stuff out of desperation, and the situation was tense, and it was a bit rough. But he kept his sanity while Fortuna was there, right? He kept his sanity while she was there, and lost it right after he had essentially killed her. Not even essentially, he had killed her, right? So it's very interesting in that regard because we know about that, right? We know that can be a thing. If you have someone there to help you out, you can keep that part of you. So that's really interesting that with him, we've seen that, but we've never gathered the clues towards that. And then now we have it with Petra, and that confirms it about Betelgeuse of he was literally sane that whole time, despite using something that wasn't compatible for him, because he was fighting alongside someone he cared about, and he was fighting to protect someone he also cared about, right? That's that's really great. I actually like that a lot. That is really fucking good. And it also shows naturally the previous archbishops and everything. It shows that they obviously, presumably, went insane, right? Or could have already been to start, but probably not. It's probably they went insane because there is no one beside them, right? There is no one in their corner. It is just them by themselves. So naturally, it doesn't work out for them. I like that. I like that a lot. Mm. I don't want Subaru to hate me. If there were any who would laugh at that vanity, then laugh. Fingers ought to be pointed, and ridicule ought to be cast upon Petra. If necessary, she could make as many excuses as she liked. This was a battle. Oh, let me move my mouse again. To save the world. She would rescue the many people who lived in the kingdom from their unease. She had no choice but to protest, or not protest, but to protect the grand stage that was the royal selection. She was carrying everyone's hopes upon herself, after all. I have far more reasons than simply the excuses I'm making. Ram Nesama is always eager to slack off on everything, but she's fighting her hardest. Frederica Nesama is staying back to attend to things, but she's praying for me. Otto-san's always acting way too recklessly. The fact that I'm moving in accordance with the master's expectations is truly unpleasant. I want to show off to Emilia Nesama and Rem Nesama. I'll roar out like a tiger on Garth San's behalf too. Yeah, I guess she would refer to him as San because, yeah, younger. I might have even mentioned that before. Meili Chan, don't make such a worried expression. Beatrice Chan, I'll definitely save you, so you mustn't cry. All of those were precious to her, and no doubt reasons why Petra was giving it her all. But the number one thing was different. My number one is you. To you, I don't want to show any part of me that's uncool. I don't want to show any part of me that's pathetic. After all, when I find myself reflected in those eyes of yours, I don't want your attention to drift away for even a second. With your heart taken by a person who's always glistening so brilliantly, if I need to present myself with a form that's always so glisteningly radiant in order to get you to turn to me, then so be it. That attraction has long since pulled me in. Don't call it anything like a witch factor. The entirety of my being is made up of love and affection. That's why this is nothing. No matter how tempting the witch factor might be, Petra would never succumb. So long as these feelings of love resided within her, and neither gluttony nor the black serpent were dreadful in the slightest. I knew it was going to be in the slightest. Let's go up to here and take a drink. Probably still have a decent bit, but I'm sure we got like 1,000 words in or something like that. If we got 2,000 in, I will be floored. We could check for fun if we really feel like it, but I'm alright. Well, we get to the end of the chapter. When we get to the end of the chapter, we're going to be here for a while, right? In my opinion, we're going to be here for like another hour at the very least, right? So I don't expect to be there just yet. Um, I mean, if we're here for another hour, that's actually not the worst. I mean, we have more time than I thought. Not that I'm going to read more, but it just means that this chapter and the next one, we can be done a whole lot sooner. To never cry for another. Interesting. That's a big one to sacrifice, Petra. The latent might of the Aldebusters, no, of the uh, assemblage apt of being named as the Witch of Touristia and her apostles, was something that far surpassed Roy's anticipations and postulations. How nice, perhaps it is nice, very nice, surely it is nice, certainly it is nice, nothing but nice, as it is nice, because it can be called nice, because it can be praised as nice, gluttonous drinking, gluttony. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I think this stream I'm gonna be very normal when I talk in Roy's voice. That is like taking the wind out of me out of nowhere. I, I think I think my body's not fully prepared for it yet. So I think for this stream we just keep it chill. Penultimately, and maybe Old Man Rom as well. Literally any character that I do a different voice for, I think we'll keep chill for this stream. Penultimately, what the Witch of Peristia was carrying out was unbeknownst to Roy. He simply comprehended with lucid precision that she was countering the authority of gluttony, enacting the authority which she possessed to its utmost, and bestowing the means to survive upon the entire troop of Felt and the rest. Pertaining to the battle, Felt and the others had failed to bear fruits greater than their own abilities as well. I keep doing this with the mouse. The maximum of their ability was constantly being drawn, poured into the best cup and being utilized. That was all. And what made this possible was the efficacy of the authority of Touristia. However, it's not supposed to be something so convenient that it can be used as much as pleased, you see. As aforementioned, Roy had hearkened, yet, from his mother's mouth, the flaw present within the witch factor of Touristia. Why does Capella know this shit? I mean, I get it. She probably, like, does her research. She probably knows what the other witch factors are like. But the fact that Capella knows how that shit works, she is just any information she wants, she gets. It does not matter where or when it comes from, she just has it. It's fucking wild, dude, man. What a good ass villain. Witch factors that could not be compatible with anyone were supposed to be defective articles that, on one hand, granted the possessor tremendous might that interfered with the rules of the world. Sorry, still, kind of feeling it from earlier. But demanded compensation to that end on the other. We do know, Petroshan absolutely loves Natsuki-san after all. The stomach of souls, upon following the newest memories settled within the treasure house of all that Roy had eaten, he could earnestly feel the valorous sentiments of the witch, newly born into this world, to be stabbing at his chest. A young, immature girl, but a girl who shan't hold her own life dear for the sake of her flaring love. Upon being told of the necessity to use anything but life itself for firewood in order to regain something valuable that had been robbed, she would perhaps devote anything as fuel without falter. And in reality, that was what she was doing. However, the stockpile was not endless. The rest is about which side gets consumed to exhaustion first. Just as the Witch of Tricia had limits, Roy too possessed an allotted time of life. The reason as to why he willfully did not heal his wounds, blood gushing profusely from them, was because he reworked even his flux of blood into an armament for fulfilling his own objective, employing it as a means to fight. That sizable fortitude of as I'm not even. I don't know why I even said as. It's of Seguin Icor. Continued to keep the alight or to continue to keep alight the fuse of Roy Alfred's life. As soon as they start talking about Roy, it immediately starts. Indeed, the battle at the present had mounted upon the frontier of whether to eat or to be eaten. Haha. Exhaling a hot, feverish breath, Roy expressed gratitude to the hunger and living his soul. Until now, at bizarre eating, Roy had measly eaten all kinds of articles, haphazardly and indiscriminately, eating them, licking them, coveting and indulging and devouring them, eclipsing to spoil uh eleventy lives. Roy Alfred had done so in order to seek an article that would appease the hunger that he had borne since birth. For that purpose, until he discovered the flavor of his wish, Roy scoured for a match all throughout the world, resuming to subsist his ethos with the bearing of heart. Ooh, excuse me. He ate and felt dispiritedness. He ate and felt uh, despondency. Sorry, it was cut off there, so it was hard to see. He ate and felt disappointment. No matter how much eclipsing to spoil he partook in, he was forevermore tyrannized by the sensation of starvation, ever unappeased. In the heretofore ethos was born a change. Its progenitor, here, try it out and see. To eat me up, depending on that you live or you die. Come on, you prick. Largely responsible. Oh, right, yeah, raid. Largely responsible was within the tower, piercing the heavens in the midst of the sand sea, the proprietor of an overwhelming soul that drove him to distortion, nearly filling to burst, or nearly filling to bursting the vessel called Roy Alfred, Raid Estrella. Coming into contact with the soul of the man christened as the first generation sword saint, enkindled a drastic reinforcement in Roy. Naming himself Bizarre Eating, consequentially, and indefatigable, I don't know, devoting himself to his ethos through multitudes, Roy had been mourning in lament that the hunger born by the existence known as his self would never come to be fulfilled. Perhaps it's not really unique to you or anything such, huh? This lovely lady, as well as all the other rabble, everyone, everyone is seeking love that won't be appeased. How about this lovely lady assists you in finding that nameless something you want? And, it's Capella. Now, in exchange, what this lovely lady wants is you get it, right? Let me look through that again. The lovely lady, as well as all the other rabble, everyone is seeking love that. Hmm, interesting. Ooh, already halfway through this, damn. Maybe we are breathing through. Who knows? Then again, I drank a little bit before we actually started. So vocalizing so whilst laughing with a beguiling, sadistic smile, the monster stated itself to become Roy's mother. I love that she's stated as a monster. She's not even stated as a person or like whatever it may be, oh like that or like she called herself lovely lady. No. She's just outright a monster. Neither did he trust to open his heart to her, nor did he depend upon her being. In avarice for a possibility Roy could not find by himself, he used his mother. It was probably likewise. See, that's another detail I enjoy. It's what I've brought up before. Nobody on Capella's team trusts her, right? They work for her by all means because it's for the sake of survival. But, like, not a single damn person actually is willingly trying to talk to her in her group, right? Not a single one of them was trying to. Every single one of them was staying the fuck away unless they were given a job. It's so good. Uh, However, no matter how much he ate, no matter how much he took a hand blemished with love, he failed to acquire that article which he wanted. Lay searched for means to appease hunger by finding and picking out worth in each and every singular meal. Louis, meanwhile, had a definite, tangible prospect of the article she wanted in order to appease hunger, apparently. Only Roy alone, did not have that, which now, at last, had been discovered. It ain't odd, you prick. Eat or be eaten. That's how life works. Ain't that so? Yes, that's right. That's precisely right. What was wanted was the real feeling of living, just the reason to be able to say with a smile from the bottom of the heart that he was alive. Pour this lovely lady's entirety for the sake of something wanted. Isn't something like that plainly obvious? Yes, that's right. That's precisely right. Even without affection, esteem, or anything at all, only that teaching of his mother's was helplessly correct. That was why all possible moves are all in their entirety. Yet, without hesitation or wholly altogether are sunk into it. It's not called love, isn't it? Because the opponents were kindly transcending their limits, his side must also respond in kind. Should he humbly not finish eating the treats that had gone out of their way to be prepared, it would make the name of gluttony weep. Now. Welcome yourselves to eating, welcome yourselves to eating, welcome yourselves to tasting. Contrary to his limbs, benumbed to cold by the efflux of blood, the voltage of his heart had risen to a crescendo, transforming his exuding blood into formed legs made in the image of those belonging to insects. Roy pulsated frummingly, and his backdrop, in concert, the black serpent speared into the heavens, becoming a pillar of befoulment, recommencing its hunt compromised of flopping onward with wholly one side. Rumbling the wind as if thunder, the contagion relentlessly descended upon the flora. Birthed thereupon was a seemingly undefectible billow of toxicity, terribly blasphemous. It quite literally swallowed the battlefield in black, pressing to kill all things with murrain pestilence. But live strong. The command and response, akin to a fool's single bit of knowledge, became an arrow of counterattack, veiled with composite strength. Ram's rend of wind toward the tidal waves of black, and the brigade of beasts, with the hungry horse king obeying melee as its vanguard, breached an opening. Following up, the well-physiqued men, including those newly summoned, lumped themselves together to convene. The hammer swinging forth vehemently shattered the ground, successfully erecting a bulwark that protected against the blighting toxicity. That was a stalwart might, or that was the stalwart might, oh, like might as in okay, might uh consequent of the covening of ones who would fail to compare by their individual strengths. A battle of potpourri of raw effort that retaliated against the advancing fruition of surging death. I need to take a drink. My lips are getting dry. I'm getting a little too cocky on how much I can read. Judging from the looks of things, Petrochan's authority is around the shortening of events, right? Bleh, won't tell. That unfriendly reply is so tempting. Amidst the black serpent's befoulment, downpouring like rain, ceasing not his onslaught, Roy bolted like a flash of lightning, while clad in armor of blood, or in his armor of blood, switching between the odd talents, techniques, and deviancies of different super rational, uh, or super the thing from last time, individuals in succession. And the force fist and the magic and the curse ballad layered atop one another, torrent upon the herd of prey. But on every instance, they all immediately rearranged their formation, knit the physical with magical attacks, and weaved together resistance, who guarded what was an unintangible or unintelligible now. Merely the truth that all of them accepted the offense and all of them countered it would keep on rewriting the battlefield. Even in the midst of this battlefield's escalations, Roy darted his eyes about in inspection of the prey. Let me make sure we're all good, just to be sure. Yeah, all right. Just wanted to make sure. Actually, oh wait, there it is. Yeah, yeah. I was confused. I'm like, it's not showing my timer on all this, which is odd. But no, it was. I just wasn't looking at the correct area. All right. We were on the rewriting of the battlefield. So even in the midst of this battle's escalations, Roy darted his eyes about in inspection, yeah, of the prey. Uh, excuse me. The witch of Turistia's authority, being shortening, more or less was unmistaken. It thus reduced the time and distance for movement, and was probably also dealing with the time for thought process and judgment. Its evidence was how the apostles of the Witch of Touristia, consequentially exerting appearances and disappearances in the battlefield, would grapple with sudden situations without any perplexity, including those participating in the war for the first time. No, by shortening the perplexity part of it, they were prepared to be capable of immediately participating in a confronting situation. But how much longer will that even last? Or, yeah, or even that last, rather, but regardless. Their grappling resilience and spritingly morale purchased admiration. But both sides were likewise close to limit. Although if Roy were to have one step of an advantage, it was the menace of the Black Serpent he had kept in reserve behind him. Even should the Witch of Touristia company vanquish Roy, then they must grapple this atrocious, fiendish witch beast. That was to say, they could not exhaust all their strength against Roy as their opponent, and to the circumstance of expending not the entirety of their might, lest it deplete, adding a further pinch of seasoning to the platter. Now's the time not to shoot for the stars, but to shoot for the eclipse you see. The black serpent's ginormous frame once again speared the heavens. The befoulment, on standby to or torrentially downpour. Preparing for it, the Witch of Touristia and company simultaneously stood guard, towards which he disgorged the memories. This was eclipse binaries, neither solar eclipse nor lunar eclipse. Roy Alfred's novel and original table manners did he let cascade. And then new one, never wish upon a star with another. Ooh, that's an interesting one, given, the series and everything. Ah. Ooh. I almost feel like I need to take a breather for a second. Oof. I'm like already tiring myself out. Damn. But I mean, we're making good progress so far, presumably. I mean, let's see. Just because I gotta take a breather. I didn't mean to go to my camera. That might have fucked with how it looked. Just because. Let me go to this. This is for the next chapter, so let's avoid that. We don't got a lot left. Yeah, we've actually been breezing through this. I thought it was gonna be like 2 hours. We've been breezing through this. There's like 4,000 words left. That's roughly 45 minutes. That means that means straight up we will be done earlier than I thought. We actually probably will be done at like 8. I'm just saying, I don't mind, right? Um, we could keep going. We could keep going. I could finish this up, and then when we finish it up, I think I'll take a break. I'll take a small break, just something small, so I could take a breather. Um, and then yeah, and we'll finish it up for tonight by doing the second chapter. One more drink, just because. Yeah, we are going by this quicker than I thought. Maybe I'm getting better at it. Maybe I'm getting better, and as a result, the time isn't really always accurate. Because I swear when I put this in, this was 9,000 words. So the fact that we're already done by like 5,000 in the time that's passed, like damn. Uh, in that moment, what surged onto the battlefield was merely one part of the horde of memories, multitudes that were apt to be called simple food, that Roy Alfred had eaten until now, but failed to find and pick out worth in them to remember. Following his experience as at the Pleiades Watchtower, the bizarre eating had revised oneself's own cognizance of ethos. Gratitude unto all ingredients, reverence unto all the trysts of fate. There was no such thing as a foul ingredient in this world. It simply meant that his self was the proprietor of a foolish tongue that failed to recognize their goodness. Take a venomous fish, for example. Should the fish's organs, which store venom, be adequately disposed of, it would become possible to surfeit a delicacy superior to consuming venom. The same applied to the prey from gluttony's vantage. In this universe, there was no such ingredient, from the head to the rear, that was entirely useless, that lacked all worth of being tasted. Any and every kind of ingredient had portions that were usable. Thus he was used such. Memories of agony. Over the course of an ordinary life, plausibly everyone plausibly everyone would possess a memory or two of having suffered unbearable pain. These multitudes of memories of agony, Roy extracted them from the stomach of souls he had stockpiled, blended them together, and hurled them toward the battlefield before his eyes. This was not something visible to the eye. Consequently, there was no ways to evade it, either. Its identity, a blasphemous deed of forcing an abstract concept onto the opponents. Most of all, pelting opponents with memories of agony would not produce immediate results. They were literal memories that the body bore no recollection of, so even upon being pelted by them, there lay no margin for the herd of prey to taste those agonies. Then what would transpire? It would merely incite a chain of remembrance and memories in close proximity. Ah! At first, a faint voice leaked from the inside the troop. They had until now roared with voices of intrepidity, worn valor and resolution on their visages, and anchored in themselves the mettle to confront every obstacle head on, truly worthy of being called heroic warriors. From those lips leaked a timber, near, uh, leaked a timber, nearly neither a war cry. Sorry, I'm getting fucked up right now. Nor a call of each other's names, but a shrill note. Ah, ah, ah. And upon its onset, the leak persisted ceaselessly. They dilated their eyes, opened their mouths wide, and placed their hands on parts that became the unsought founts of screaming, screeching helplessly as though spouting blood. Moreover, this was not one lone individual. Everyone present in that locus began to scream. Hook. The synthesis of memories of agony that Roy had hurled impelled the bodies to remember agony within proximity that had been tasted before. For those who were within the range of that abstract concept, as though it was a thing of the present moment. I know there's gonna be a lot of characters suffering through this, but I'm just thinking about like, oh god, Melee's gonna remember Capella. Oh boy. Agony that had been tasted once in the past could be endured. Nay, this rationale was erroneous. Agony that was unbearable in the past was unbearable yet in the present, and yet so in the future. Gaw. It was a voice unbecoming to be voiced, a cacophony uproared in succession by Felt, by Ram, by Old Man Rom, by Melee, by Flam, by Grassus, by Gaston, by Ratchins, by Doltero, by the apostles summoned to the battlefield by the might of the authority of Touristia. Nobody could brave it, and they wanted to screech the shrillest wail, above and beyond. Petra was none other than Petra. Yeah, I figured it was going to be Petra. Was none other than Petra Lighty, the eyebrows spasming upward, compelled to taste and even relish the concourse of agonies that had chaperoned Natsuki Subaru to death. Yeah. And I knew that as well. I knew it was going to be him dying, was what she was going to have to taste. Never rendezvous with another. Oh boy. I see walls. I see walls of text. Oh boy. I'll admit, I'll admit, the fact that Glendy can do that. Sorry, I need a tissue right now. Where's my fucking tissue? Hold on. Just bring it over so it's easier to see. I'll admit. Ah, okay. There we go. Um, I did underestimate Roy in that regard. I did not think he was going to be capable of something like that. That is that is wild. Ooh man. Ooh, excuse me. I did not think he was going to be able to just throw concepts at people. That is a big deal. Oh man, hold on. Need another one. My nose. I don't know what's going on right now. Just out of nowhere, it started acting up. That's all right, but you know. Oh, but the idea that he can throw concepts at people is wild, right? Or at least like emotions and stuff like that, and like memories of that sort of thing, and just like it mentioned, the closest proximity to that. Fuck. Right. Oh, that is rough. That is rough. I guess we keep going. Petra, hearing the frantic outcry of the imaginary Subaru. The fact that it seemed like he did not have to experience any of this pain, given that he was a phantom watching her, served as a relief to Petra. 'Twas not so. It had been unable to serve as such. Any possible leeway for that existed not within Petra Lighty. Tasting in the torment of death. Ah, a hoarse breath spilled forth. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, you know. Eesh. Lacerated abdomen hurts. Crushed eyeballs hurts. Stabbed chest hurts. Misfortune wrought by passing malice hurts. Finger cut by the poor knife skills hurts. Skin fissures from the kitchen work hurts. Head caved in without warning hurts. I I like that this is going over every single thing. Like lacerated abdomen, it's literally the first death, right? It's a literally the first death he suffers at Elsa's hand. That's so good that it goes over every single bit of pain, and like in chronological order. Sorry, I just wanted a quick drink. Oh, it's so cool. Uh, Head caved in without warning, that would be Rem. Body tortured alongside sound of chains hurts. That would be uh what would that be? Because that would be Rem again, but that would be what was it, like the equivalent of like episode 6 or 7? Um, because that's when she's like beating the shit out of him. Yeah, literally the follow-up. Throat gouged by wind hurts. Yeah. And that's when Ram kills him, like at the end of that. Jumping off and crashing onto pointy rocks hurts. Crushed eyeball is interesting. I assume that was a web novel or potentially a light novel version of uh arc 1, but maybe not. Because Stab Chest comes right after that, and it's like Stab Chest was when he was in the alley. Crushed eyeball implies that Elsa did that. Uh and then misfortune wrought by passing malice. That one I'm actually a little confused. That might be no, because that would be too early. I was thinking when the heart gets grabbed. Um Body and mind after vicious beating hurts. Hands and legs after putting on airs and being taken easy on when disciplined hurts. Frozen and shattered fingers. Ankles hurts. Licked eyeball feeling disgusted and or disgusting and hurts. Wrists freed from handcuffs. Frozen and broken hurts. Falling to knees on ground completely congealed. Everything creaked and hurts. Body shoved away by perturbed auto hurts. Unsightliness trying to escape the white whale after that hurts. Soul amidst being frozen in zenith cold hurts. Threat of life running amok to convince an assisted suicide hurts. Chest assailed for the sake of assisted suicide hurts. Heart grabbed upon confessing returned by death hurts. Yeah, so that would be. Well, yeah, that would be, yeah. Being grabbed by tenacious pursuit of the authority of sloth hurts. Stabbing own throat for fear of losing rem hurts. Abdomen. So it's a little bit all over the place because some of these are happening earlier than they are. Abdomen disemboweled for the first time in months hurts. That's arc 4. Uh, Entire body struck by debris. Arms mangled up. Finally, body being devoured from the inside hurts. Toyed with by ferocious beast. Entire body been to shreds again hurts. Finally, stabbing own throat again. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Petra, Petra, that's no good. Don't give in, Petra. The entirety of the mind was dominated by pain. Even though the inside of the body, the inside of the mind, the inside of the heart were all supposed to be filled with the brim, to the brim with. Ooh, we know how that is with the series. The pain, well, like when you see the squares and everything, the pain eclipsed everything entirely. From the top of the head to the tips of the toes, there was no place within the body that was not feeling pain. All throughout this being, the entirety of what shaped the self transformed into pain. In order to make the self experience pain, by constructing the pain pained, and the painting, pain. Uh, Vision stained bright red, their own incredibly noisy voice seemed to ring like tinnitus. A sharp scent of blood deep in the nose, drool spilling from within the mouth with the taste of death, the shock causing an unbearable level of goosebumps on all the skin of the body. Once again, the torment of that had failed to truly be understood by merely having read the Book of the Dead was clearly steeped into as well. Through that pain, gained a painful understanding of, in the truest, most literal sense, as the pain blotted over both the inside and outside of, entirely deep down, a painful understanding. Well, the painful understanding that the entirety of pain endured was linked to not but to not su but to Natsuki Subaru's memories of repentance, accompanied by sublime feelings of loss. It had hurt. Letting Amelia die, it had hurt. Letting Felt die, it had hurt. Letting Romji die, it had hurt. Letting Rem die, it had hurt. Letting everyone in Arlem Village die, it had hurt. Letting Ram die, it had hurt. Letting Frederica die, it had hurt. Letting Petra die, it had hurt. Letting Beatrice die, it had hurt. Letting Otto die, it had hurt. Letting Roswell die, it had hurt. Letting Ryuzu die, it had hurt. Letting Garfield die, it had hurt. It had hurt. It had hurt. Utmost vexation. Vexing. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Why was that? Don't want to lose. Even if it hurt, even if it was painful, it was far better than sorrow and vexation. Love everyone, so will not give up on anyone. Love you, who's loving everyone, who would not give up on anyone, so will not give up on anyone. Hence, just who do you think I am? Was it was per pura it was Petra Lighty with bundles of potential, rich with talent and quick to learn, harboring great promise with a bright future ahead of her. That person, those people, all believed that about Petra. Then she would do so. Can do it. It ought to be possible for you, Petra Lighty. I won't let everyone who told me that I could do it become liars after all. Or perhaps were they all just liars who believed in a weak, pitiful Petra who could not do anything? There's no way it could be that. It's possible. It ought to be possible. If it's possible, then stop being all talk and do it. Do it. Just do it. You can do it. Do it now. Do it right this instant. Now. Come on. Do it. Do it. Just do it. Compression. No. By means of the power and authority of Touristia, compression would be invoked. Just as distance, traversal time, thinking time, discussion time had all been compressed. Right now, on the dreadful instant that had befallen Petra and the rest, compression would be invoked. Pain, oh, what a dreadful thing it was. Even a slight amount of pain would cause one to get teary-eyed when it turned to a matter of pain that was a bit sharper. One would become unable to sleep at night when it came to having an abundance of dull pains. It might very well have sway over the rest of one's life to follow. Be it slight, sharp, or dull, the time in which pain was experienced would always feel long and drawn out. On the time that would make a second feel like 10, an hour feel like 12, and a day feel like an eternity, compression would be invoked. Everyone, get ready to grit your teeth. It'll all be over in a second, but it'll hurt 100 times more. That it might be more than 10,000 times more, did not tell her. Regardless if he did, regardless if her heart was ready for it, the fact for her doing it would not have changed after all. Compressed agony. The power of the Witch of Touristia ascended to a brand new stage was unveiled. Lament, parting with another. Oh, dude. Again, Petra this arc, like, holy shit, she's been going crazy. When we are properly done this arc, Petra's going high on that tier list, like, genuinely. She has legitimately become one of the best characters this series has to offer. I already thought she was pretty damn good, right? But she is phenomenal here. This is awesome. The new art he had debuted erupted unerringly, featuring the flawless coordination of the herd of prey. Whilst his ears hearkened the wind's rumble as the black serpent's body flopped forward, contrived with befoulment, abound with toxic blight, a varicolored pandemonium of screams, screeches, and wails reached him from the other side. All of it seemed so aching, so agonizing that if Roy had conferred the time, he would have wept through the whole night, thinking of them the utmost, and inscribed those feelings into verses of poetry and set them adrift atop a river. Time for that he had not, however. Neither did he have the erudition to compose poetry, so it would not have been of any decent makings. But it was the truth that he had thought of them with compassion. He bore no begrudgment toward them. Nothing akin to hatred either. Not even an intermixed blend of love and hate. All he felt was nothing but simply love. Who would ever want to see anything such as the figures of their loved articles wailing in agony? That would be nothing more than spice for when their lives were surfeited. Spice was not stable food, or staple food, sorry. Um, to set it as a main dish was a deed of an aberrant parent. We will not commit such a terrible act, you know. In the wake of eclipsed binaries, which sparked a chain of reaction of memories of agony, the herd of prey's ability to mobilize had been ruptured. All that remained was the downpour of the black serpent's befoulment. His particular head was charged with representing Elder's blight, so it would not go as far as to rob them of their lives. It would occlude their thinking and mobility, restraining them on the precipice of mortality in perpetuum. Should that happen, the rest would be like a wine cellar. Until the time of drinking, when their true names were brought to light arrived, he shall await their time of ripening and fermentation. He had heard the precipice where they would be restrained offered no refuge. Anguish and darkness lasted unceasing, but in the end, the pain and affliction that they shall taste would settle within Roy and vanish. So it was fine. Tasting such bitterness, licking it to finish, and surfeiting himself with it too was yet ethos. Ah, even though they can't be eaten immediately, looking at the ripened fruits is so painful. As he was about to utter, Roy's words were interrupted. There was no counterattack. If anything, it was the opposite. Or if anything, it was the opposite. The herd of prey bellowed a bitter, chest-stabbing screech on a higher order of magnitude in both intensity and volume. They held a sonorousness that could understandably be perceived as death wails. Roy widened his eyes for a moment, but it progressively indicated the success of his plan. Live, strong. The subsequent instant, fathomless response and unity defied the inevitable demise that should have swallowed the herd of prey. That's some sick art as well. What time is it? Yeah, we're probably already approaching the end, I bet. Never walk into the sunset with another. Oh boy. Let's take a quick drink so that I, don't have to on the middle of the next thing. Hopefully. All right. I'm gonna have to refill this after. We are drinking enough that it does feel like we spent way more time on this than I thought. Because how much time are we gonna spend on this in total? Probably, yeah, like an hour and a half, maybe less than that. Because I started the stream and we were talking for like 10 minutes or so. So damn. Ooh. That instant, a sensation as if all the skin on her body being peeled off, followed by Reinhard scrubbing her flayed body with a metal brush steeped in ample amounts of salt water, assailed felt as a hellish pain. Ugh. For the first time in her life, the pain she experienced was so intense that it felt like her insides were twisting themselves inside out. Paralysis crept through the corner of her mind, and she even hallucinated a sensation of her blood flowing backwards in her veins. Exactly what had just happened, she did not know. No, she understood. Petra had done something. That pipsqueak's quite impressive. And so felt quietly praised the strenuous efforts of the girl, who was nearly the same height as her. From the discussions that had been squeezed tight with absurd momentum up until this point, she knew that Petra had coordinated brilliantly with Ramji to establish the combined forces. This was an incredible feat, after all. Ramji was the wisest and most reliable man in the world, so Petra must have been nothing short of a genius. And that genius had done something beyond imagination. In order to land a crushing blow on something that the opponent had done, even still, you've really got some terrible luck, you know that? Cheeks contorting as she spoke, Felt caught sight of a small shadow in the corner of her eye. Camberley. Unlike Gaston, who had been in the fight since the beginning, or Ratchins, who had joined the fray midway through, Kimberly had made his grand entrance at the most critical moment. But at the exact moment, the unimaginable pain had been unleashed upon them, so calling it terrible luck would have been a gross understatement. However, you got terrible luck, but you're the best. With tears streaming from the corners of from his eyes, that which Camberley had carried here in his hands was now snatched away by Felt. Something of a trump card of the camp, the Star Staff. I knew that's what it was going to be. She would fire it, with every fiber of her being, every ounce of strength she could scrape together. Felt would give it everything she had. All that remained was finding an opening to fire it, and then never tread upon the shadow of one who walks beside me. Live strong. An exclamation that rendered imperceivable which exactly was the war cry of a witch beast. The roar pulsated in the black serpent's body, analogous to a thousand calamities baled together, was jostled backward by the shockwave immediately below it. Raging across the battlefield with a vehement torrent of light and dark, the heaven-rending impact boiled Roy's entire body with astonishment. What had occurred? What did they do? All of it he questioned not. Petra Chan, with only the identity of who did it certain, Roy Alfred reached zenith. It was an amazing thing to accomplish. Ovation and a round of applause, becoming one with the multitudes of the crowds of memories within Roy. He must bid them thunderous applause. Just how much sacrifice of oneself would it take to make the witchcraft of Tristia do that? By any measure of imagination or surmise, the ordinary, average kind of happiness in all of its forms would have been parted with, or it would not be possible to materialize this battlefield. This close of a skirmish, this extent of outrageous insolence, would it? Want to become happy. That was bound to be the unconditional, imperishable, fixed, and indivisible wish as a human being. It was bound to be unconditionably absolute prayer, no different even for Roy, no, for even for Lay, or even for Louis, even for the sin archbishops, even for evildoers, and even for criminals, living and continue to live for that purpose, but lest it be parted with, this battlefield shall not. Pupils bued with delight, drying them with a single blink of his eyelids. Roy looked upon Felt, who had snatched a white staff from the hands of her comrade. Since the dwarf, who did not seem to be any war potential for the most part. Oh, he can't avoid this, I just realized. He has no one to swap into. He's fucked. For the most part, had gone out of his way to bring it here at this 11th hour, unmistakably meant it was a special secret weapon. In other words, if that won't do, then will you stop crying? Rainbow-hued butterflies danced, spears of fire and rain, fire and rain, fire and ice rained. Titanic scythes of blood from multifarious directions were fired, a pressure that crushed everything not from the left to the right, but from the rear to the front, uh, yeah, precipitated. Sorry, every time there's a cut-off word, it takes me a moment to like figure it out. A soprano befitting of a young boy, cursedly resonated in song. Protect Felt. Wind sundered the butterflies together. Magic bullets of ice and fire shattered the spears of fire and ice. Burly muscles intercepted the titanic scythes of blood through lacerations received. A momentary twin impact perforated the ground, surging from the rear to the front, and the enormous builds of the aged man and the pig man shielded against the cursed ballad that disintegrated flesh and blood. Magnificent, but his wave-like onslaught blocked by the bastion of coordination. Roy, however, did not lose heart. Invoking the teleport he had restrained from utilizing until now, Roy's silhouette appeared at the heart of Felt's troop in the blink of an eye, his aim being Felt, not instead. The two over here are also pivotal, right? Within the personnel braced to intercept, he aimed for the spines of those two bereft of energy to stand up. The Witch of Tristia and Witch Beast Master. Both of them wore potential essential for opposing con- co- contingent to rival Gluttony and the Black Serpent in battle, and nobody's hand shall timely reach Roy, who stood right behind them. Licking his lips, Roy hosted the Fist King in his right hand and the Snow Vallum in his left, and with tender kindness, that moment Mealy's hair wriggled and crawled, and a corona was shot through Roy's left eye. Dude! I need a drink. Holy shit. The way they worded it in Arc 6, I thought Shaola just became a regular ass scorpion. No, she's just small now. She's literally still herself, she's just small. Oh my god, that's wild. Dude, that's so wild. She can still use her shots. She can still do the sniper shot. Oh my god, that's awesome. Impelled by a sensation of scorching heat, the left side of Roy's perception vanished. Just what was this? Roy bared his remnant eye, and in his vision entered the virtuoso that had crushed his left eye. A little scorpion, lurking in concealment within Mealy's hair, was reflected therein. It being unknown to him, a trump card absent in memories, a face-down card, Viva fight to the finish. Even a tiny ally like that is gallant, or is gallantly devoting its might, was how he was to resume, but did not. Hastier than that, the ground upon which Roy's legs were braced double-crossed him, rocketing him into the sky without omen. Magic. It was not. Nowhere could be the wavelength of mana be perceived. Or could the wavelength of mana be perceived? Then was it the Witch of Taristia once more? Nay, not even she lost her eyes on the back of her head. What had transpired was an eminence protruding from the ground, nary an omen or prior signal to that Burgurn. Good grief, my amazing self's comrades are way too damn reliable. That which had been beat upon his eardrums all too suddenly was a sharp voice, an exceedingly common recollection in his memories. By the souls of the feet did they achieve concert with the earth, such that during the intervals whilst they were planted firm upon the ground, still that person would become as though an iron keep, infallibly to all who sought its conquest, precisely because of being so dependable. The bark of their timber ought not to have been heard. Ring up into the air, stretched out amidst Roy's vision upside down, was the earthy landscape where the witch beast of pestilence thrived, and thereupon would he set it to wreak havoc. Unlike before, a distance now emerged between it and Roy, albeit his armor of blood was beginning to shed, were the befoulment to be spattered out like a shower of rain. The herd of prey would have to divert their efforts towards countering that. Sit down. For but a moment the black serpent's movements were thrown into disarray by the weeping outcry. But the duration of its stoppage amounted not to even the blink of an eye. Even if I had been deprived of that interval, I would never amount to Roy's machinations falling out of that instant the serpentine form of the witch beast, whilst seeking to reach skyward as though a spire piercing the heavens, rupturing its befoulment, spilled out from within, and onto the besmirched ground did a lone silhouette tumble down. Brr, 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 brr. You're kidding. Violently coughing, the red-haired man, who had fallen into a pool of the most abhorrent befoulment in this world, delivered unto Roy an impact that could not be explained by a simple tenacity or a pathetic adhesion to life, leaving him lost for words. For what reason was he alive? The question, and the appetite welling up, made Roy's stomach growl unwittingly. Yo, look the fuck over here. I was about to say, because amazing self, it's Garfield. With an effortless leap, the golden-haired boy caught up to the airborne Roy and gnashed his sharp fangs. He raised aloft one of his fists clad in silver gauntlets in a grandiose hoist. That's some sick ass art. Uh, should those smite him, the half-killed status Roy would be left in would strip him of standing any chance. Despite knowing it, despite knowing it would only amount to stalling for a few moments and not more. From his choices of withdrawing to refuge, Roy sought to follow suit of the odd talent of the Leaper and invoked Lunar Eclipse. Buh! Zodabugs cannoned into him from the blind spot on his left, disrupting his focus. I guess Otto's back. On allowing his line of sight to be lured by the irksome buzz and abhorrent texture, laying ahead tens of meters distance were trees onto which a light blue ground dragon had been latched, and with his body entrusted to it was the silhouette of a man supposed to be hollowed empty. The man pointed his finger in this direction, and upon noticing their gazes cross, smiled, transmitting to him, "You have been bested." The subsequent juncture, the wind howled, and a fist been designed with wind pressured. Ooh, excuse me. With wind pressure, blitzed straight towards Roy. It was awfully slow, seeming like it would take some time before it reached, when he had noticed. "This is Petrochan's doing. Is that what it means?" "Yes. Thought I'd properly say it at the end, that it serves you right." Feet stationed at the top of the ground, the Witch of Taristia proclaimed triumph to Roy in that time that she had protracted. There no longer seemed to be anything that Roy could do pertaining to that. Also, the fifth strike of the ravenous, raging tiger had drawn imminent to about a distance the size of 5 coins away from him. In the time until that direct attack, was there, what was there they could do? He ruminated, and it occurred to him. It was amazingly big deal, Petrochan. But weren't the sacrifices you made to win just too big? Making excuses like a sore loser? Nobody's been taken down on our side. Just so pathetic for a Sin Archbishop. With the Witch of Taristia as the opponent, would lose face. But what's called a sacrifice doesn't apply to lives alone. The future, the hopes, the possibilities, it's those kind of things. We are worried from the bottom of our heart that Petrochan's long life here on out will become so lonely, you see. 4 coins away. At the very least, to dredge out the compensations, albeit her wish to hide them, and engrave oneself into her through that agony. That was Roy's unscrupulous ethos, to which Petra fluttered her eyes and put on a puzzled face. It couldn't be. Surely she had not paid them without realizing. Whilst these thoughts dwelled, the reaction was, "Could it be your misunderstanding?" Misunderstanding? That's strange. I thought Otto-san would likely say something like it. That this time the entire world is your enemy. That sort of thing. 3 coins away. He had not been told so, firsthand. However, such ardor was extant in memories. Considering Aldebaran's deeds and the devastation he perpetrated, this cognizance could be called just and legitimate. However, that ought to be something with no greater or lesser purport. Sorry. It can't be. It is. 2 coins away. Within the confines of the sensation of protraction, it was impracticable to commit an act so extravagant as gulping a breath. But in the throat of his heart, Roy gulped a breath of his heart, and looked at she who smiled as it befit a witch tenderly. The young girl, supposed to be incompatible with the witch factor, however, was beyond question the Witch of Taristia. After all, the witch factor of Taristia can be used by anyone should they pay compensation. If the compensations are properly harmonized, anyone can act as the agent. So it's being paid together with everyone in the royal capital. Well then, I'll say it one more time. Serves you right. 1 coin away. After all, unbeknownst to Roy, was the being who had abused the witch factor of Taristia to this degree. If this were not the Witch of Taristia, then what could it possibly be? Ah, thank you for the treat. 0 coins away. Gorgeous Tiger's thunderbolt exploded. It mercilessly shattered into Roy's uh, countenance, knocking it down toward the ground, where the black serpent writhed. His petite frame plunged right towards the core of the befoulment just before that. Fire! Felt roared, and the staff sit. That I am not even gonna try that. That is like legitimately difficult to try and actually figure out. Uh, the staff in her grip fired a corona that washed the world with its paint of alabaster white. It altered into a smite of judgment without and escaped forbidden, swallowing ones who were auxiliaries, of malfunction and atrocity. So was the denouement of the ethos of bizarre eating. Ah, okay, yeah. So so it was ethos because I'm like I'm not familiar with that. What the fuck is that? And I now realize that it's ethos and eat combined together. I realized that. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's why I didn't really like kind of understand it, and I was like, I want to say ethos because I knew ethos wasn't spelled like that. I fucking knew it, but I'm like, why is it? Mm. That was a phenomenal chapter, by the way. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Ooh, what a good finale. I'm curious about what happened with Otto. I assume we'll find out with the next chapter because he's on the cover of it. Or not cover, but the art is there. Damn, that was good. That was really good. It's getting dark in here. I probably should turn on a light when we get back from the break. But that was really nice. That was a phenomenal chapter for Petra, especially. That was good. That was good. Fuck, dude. What a damn fun chapter. Oof, that was good. All right, so we're gonna go on a short break. The next chapter is short. It won't take very long. Um, yeah, like it'll be at most maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. Uh, and yeah, once we're back, we'll finish up for tonight with that second chapter, and then Thursday, hopefully, we get the last two done. So quick break. We'll be right back. See you in I'm gonna say like 15 to 20 minutes. I took a slightly longer break, just because I wanted a bit of a breather. Ooh, got up a little quick there. Ooh, so I was just kind of sitting, you know. Alright, slightly longer break, like I said. Just wanted a bit more of a breather. Ooh, excuse me. And a bit more of a drink. Feeling nice and better, you know. Not too much better, but definitely feels like that was needed. That sort of extended break was needed. So let's switch back. There we go. Yeah. Maybe I should get a light up. I mean, the next chapter shouldn't be too long. It should, like at most it'll push into 8, which is a little bit rough, but that's all right, right? I think it's fine. I think we can go without it for today. All right, let's do it. But let's finish this up. Here we go. So presumably auto chapter based on this, obviously. But there we go. Actually, let me take another drink, just to be sure. Just to be sure, no pauses, no nothing. All right. I think we're good to go. When I open my eyes, we're off to a great start for me. When I opened my eyes, I realized I had no idea who I was whatsoever. Where this place is, when the present time is, who I am, what is happening, I don't have the slightest idea. I cannot see, cannot hear, cannot move my hands or my legs. It makes sense that he would essentially be able to recover because, he didn't necessarily have everything eaten. So I guess temporarily he was out and then he got back up. Similar to Krush. Like we know this happened with Krush and all that. My feet are not on the ground, cannot breathe properly either, and I'm in extraordinary discomfort. Yet I could sense voices. Even though my senses of sight, smell, touch, taste, and most of all sound are blocked off, there are voices. Many, plentiful, innumerable voices showering down upon me, unable to do a thing, as if I am a powerless baby thrown into the cradle of hell. Ceaselessly, bereft of intent, the tempest of voices continued to pummel me. Just as a baby would be defenselessly struck by the rain, I am being drowned in voices. At this rate, I think I would prefer to just drown and die like this. Lady, lady, are you all right? You're going to be rescued now. A loud voice, it rang in my head. Amidst the numerous, or laddie, I don't know why I said lady. Why did I say lady? Ooh, I'm really off. I am me of all people, couldn't say laddie. I am so upset. we're doing that. We're doing that over again. Laddie, laddie, are you all right? You're going to be rescued now. A loud voice, it rang in my head. Amidst the numerous, countless voices, it is a voice that feels clearly directed towards me. I cannot do anything, but still I can understand the powerful voice directed towards myself. Hence, Auto bro, grit your teeth now. Hearing that voice, a feeling of suspicion arrived along with a terribly violent sound. A sound that was not a voice, vibrated my eardrums and restored the means for my tightly sealed eyes to take in light. And so, I was finally able to face the owners of the voices, those who had directed their voices towards me. Really fucking sorry that it took me so long to get here. Everything, it's my amazing self's fault. Is it just... Oh, it's like... It's because, yeah, it's all off to him in a bit, or a bit, right? Everything's still kind of wavy. What are you saying, Garfsan? Garfsan and everyone else hadn't come. Laddie wouldn't still be strung up even now. Ah, Laddie. Laddie, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just gonna read it once just because, even though it's twice. Uh, Present there is a golden-haired boy, alongside a large ground dragon with a pale blue hide. The voices that I just, or that I don't know why I said just. that I feel are overlapping with the voices that I hear, but there is no doubt about it. The ground dragon is nestling close to me as I sit on the ground. The boy is forcibly grabbing at my shoulders. You don't understand anything right now, eh? But that's all right. Or that's all right. Well, or we'll get it back with everyone else. Everything my amazing self's lacking for, everyone's gonna lend their hands. And so, Auto Bro, you just sit here and rest assured, I think he wanted to say that. It seems like the boy before my eyes knows my empty self and is trying to do something about it. In all likelihood, he knows the reason why I am empty. I want to know. I want to ask him about it. Naturally, I feel inclined to do so. I do, but might there be anything that I could possibly do? The voice that spilled from my mouth. I don't know whether or not it was actually formed as a proper voice. Only, seeing that both the boy and the ground dragon were widening their eyes, I could tell that my words had been conveyed. To be honest, I do not understand anything. I do not. But there is just one thing I can say. I'm grateful that they rescued me from that cradle of hell. Above all, when you guys speak to me with such earnest voices, of course, I will want to respond accordingly. That's hearing my words. The boy and the ground dragon opened their eyes wide, and as their breaths and voices synced up, they spoke. Just like you, laddie. Just like you, Auto Bro. At those voices, I began thinking of myself before I became empty, a smile coming over my face, directed towards whoever did this to me, the smile as if to say, you have been bested. To y'all. Oh, I didn't mean to go down that far. Delivered alongside the loud carillon, carillon of a silver bell, with a powerful kick in contrast to its lightness. Gripping the handle of her morning star, Rem bore witness to the satisfactory outcome of her efforts. Using magically crafted footholds of ice as practical disturbances, she had drawn the attention of the opponents upwards, successfully supporting Amelia. Of course, if it had been possible, she would have preferred victory to have been decided through the affectionate iron ball that Subaru had continued to polish. But she must not be too greedy. Subaru had also taken things step by step with Rem in the Empire. If Subaru had been impatient, and instead had pressed Rem with everything being about me, me, me. Back then, it might not have been just been his fingers, but his arms and legs that would have gone broken as well. Now that her memories had returned, even just the thought that she would ever enact such violence onto Subaru was enough to make her faint. But Rem herself recognized that it was entirely possible for her to have done so, given her state of mind at the time. Hence, it was important to do everything step by step, in the proper order. It was the same with cooking. Even though she was relatively proficient at cooking, Rem had a bad habit of disregarding the principle when it came to anything else. And when it came to bad habits, she had another. Must not jump to conclusions. The reason why she had the reason why she had quickly always been convinced that something was settled, and thus relaxed her efforts, was due to a lack of imagination. The one who had preached to Rem that ceasing one's thoughts was wrong had also taught her, when she had been bereft of memories, how to determine her heart. Priscilla. Even if she was gone, her teachings yet lived on, and so long as those teachings kept Rem alive, they would remain so. That was why. You're joking. When Amelia raised a voice of astonishment, Rem had not ceased her thoughts. Directly below, Amelia rose up to deliver a kick within a blind spot of Al and his shinobi, and her ice-clad foot ought to have struck him with spine-shattering force. But Al had protected against that, covering himself and his partner with a box of stone. He had done so. That's what Brahmsama was talking about. The efficacy of turning back time, Rem had judged it to be so. For a split-second defensive maneuver, that which covered his entire body had been far too flawless. In order to use magic, what was required was the mental image of the effects, the construction of the technique. If either was lacking, magic would not take form, and the more complex the endeavor being attempted, the longer it would take to conceive a mental image of its effect. That which Al had performed was born of a mental image far too certain in regards to a surprise attack from his blind spot. Even though she understood the principle behind it in her head, Rem once again bit down on the inside of her cheek upon witnessing the cheat technique. To begin with, Al's authority had already proved it was capable of sidestepping even Reinhardt. Even if they continued to attack like this, would he not just continue to evade everything? Such negative thoughts were. Rem. Just as she began spiraling into negative thoughts, Amelia's holler snapped her out of it. Across the rocky box that had emerged midair, Amelia and Rem crossed gazes. Unlike Rem, who was overwhelmed by the threat of the authority, a powerful glint was housed within Amelia's amethyst eyes. That gave her heart. As strength flaringly returned to her own eyes, the invigoration of her horn by way of her Oni form swelled Rem's entire body with vitality. Plummeting through the sky, 30 seconds had already elapsed since the battle had commenced, and what allowed for that to be accurately measured were the marks engraved into the large rock visible far to their rear. An enormous fissure in the land that existed within the Kararagi city-states, the Agzad Canyon, had a difference in elevation of 5,000 meters from the surface to the deepest part of the valley, and the time it took to descend all the way around 100 seconds. Markings had been engraved beforehand along the rock face for intervals for every 10 seconds, and they were currently passing the third. 70 seconds remained until they hit the bottom. We're still just getting started. Amelia and Rem's voices overlapping. They resumed combat with renewed morale and an upsurge of strength. Rem greatly bent her body, and Amelia, spinning around, produced mallets of ice in both her hands. In that moment, the Morning Star was fired like a cannonball, and the ice hammers were unleashed on both sides whilst clad in a powerful wind, pulverizing the stone box that Al and his accomplice had enclosed themselves in. Fragments of stone scattered alongside a thunderous crash, and the enemies, split up between the top and bottom, fiercely commenced their attacks onto Rem and Amelia. Al headed for Amelia. For Rem came the red-haired shinobi. No, you're also... Indeed, I'm Al-Sama's helpful all-purpose maid, Ye-chan. That's Rem's designation in regards to Subaru-kun. Putting a halt on the statement of the not shinobi red-haired maid, no, of the woman who called herself Ye, Rem pulled back her iron ball with her right hand and moved to slam her mighty left arm into Ye as she flew towards her. But Ye stopped midair through some unnatural braking mechanism and evaded it. At a glance, she sent a thread from her backhand to connect to Al, using exquisite tension and flexibility to halt her movement, before a shimmer shot from the other hand towards Rem's neck. Huma, intuiting the incoming threat, Rem's spinal reflex guarded her vitals by forming a collar of ice. As soon as the thread attached itself to the collar, she removed her head from it, avoiding decapitation. Just as Rem survived through a quick judgment, she veered the rising iron ball towards targeting Ye's back, the latter having raised her eyebrows slightly. However, as the iron ball approached Ye from behind, she evaded precisely as if she had eyes on the back of her head. As Rem expressed astonishment while catching the iron ball, that had barely missed on its return path, Ye stuck out her tongue. It's reflected in your eyes, you know. Momentarily enraged by that provocation, Rem accepted a scolding from the Katya in her heart, nodding in agreement with the imaginary Katya as she clamored like a cat. Idiot, that's exactly what your opponent wants. Rem praised the talents of an enemy capable of utilizing what was reflected in their opponent's eyes. In that case, kindly strain those eyes well, sorry. With those words, she took the retrieved ball of her Morning Star and covered it in layers and layers and layers of ice, doubling and doubling and doubling its mass, and hurled down a lump of ice around 10 meters in diameter. Maybe my provocation was a little too effective. The roaring iceberg slayed all wind in its approach, and as Ye, her voice quavering. Furiously waved her hands around as she chiseled, notched, and carved away as the morning ice block star fragmented its mass over and over and over again to stop it. Ultimately stripped naked from the ice, all that remained was the bare iron ball, and as it hurled right at her chest, she caught it with a web of threads, dispersing the impact as it forcefully shot her downwards. What awaited her down there? This time, unlike the royal capital, I won't let you get away. Though normally, if you do that, I just end up running off with the wind. Uh, as Amelia and Al clashed against each other, they traded blows in the form of both weapons and words. In their vicinities. I don't know why that was taking me so long. Vicinities, sorry. In their vicinities, each had floating armaments of ice and stone, respectively. And they both continued to promptly grab any of the weapons next to them, wielding them with no concern for their surroundings as they bashed them against each other. Ya, terya, hiya, uya, torya, te 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 te. Contrary to her cute war cries, Mila's offense did not have any room for breathers. However, for all the swords, spears, and axes that rained down upon Al, he parried with his own axes, spears, and swords, and continued to pull through. As Amelia utilized acrobatic movements to enact her incident offensive, Al met her every blow with weapons. I don't know. I was just gonna go with swords outright. With weapons at the shortest distance possible, successfully defending against it. Likely, that was also the effect of turning back time. Once an attack landed, he would return to before it landed, and then place his weapon over the spot it had landed. Rinse and repeat. Al-Sama, after being spiked down by Rem, Ye arrived at the scene of that back and forth combat. Realizing she had blundered by temporarily creating a 2-on-1 situation, Rem too attempted to increase her falling speed by using a foothold. Nay, Amelia-sama. Instead of catching up herself, Rem passed instantaneous judgment and tinkered with the anger of her iron ball she had sent down there. Although Ye had dispersed its impact, the iron ball still plummeted with her at a constant speed, and as if carrying Subaru's spirit, who had polished it, it flew towards Amelia to aid her in the predicament. Then, just before a joint attack from Al and Ye could strike her, Amelia was caught by the chains. Uriah! Using the foothold she had made a moment prior, not to launch herself off of it, but to brace herself, she fished Amelia up with the chains that had caught her. As Amelia was lifted up between Al and Ye, just as they were about to reconvene, the two factions regrouped into divisions of Upper Sky and Lower Sky. Thank you. You're really strong. You're welcome. The feeling is mutual. Quick drink. We're fucking up a little bit, so let me take a drink to fix that potentially. Grabbing the hand of Amelia, who had been elevated to the same position, Rem was impressed by the enemy's strength. Originally, Rem and Amelia were supposed to be responsible solely for Al, so Ye's participation here was incredibly troublesome. Not only did she divide their forces, she was also incredibly skilled herself. Moreover, being together with Al was not just an addition to her strength, it served as multiplication. Indeed, just like myself, that person. Eh? Just now, did you say something about Subaru? Apologies. That is a matter for after this is finished. Responding so to the wide-eyed Amelia, Rem ascertained that they were passing another marking on the rock face, that 60 seconds remained until they landed at the bottom, and firmly grit her teeth. Her thoughts from just earlier were correct. Ye was formidable, and made even stronger when Al was with her. In order to do something about that, split them up, Amelia-sama. Yes, do it with me. Holding hands, they raised up their opposite hands. Yeah. Amelia's empty and Rem's with a weapon, directing them towards the pair directly below. Al, Huma. As the two types of Huma intermingled, ice began to appear in the air whilst a creaking sound perforated the atmosphere. Of course, were they to simply attack by hurling pebbles, it would only repeat of failures up to this point. So, to prevent that from even happening, rather than focusing on how the ice came out, it plotted where it would emerge. Chi. Obstructed by the expanding ice, the sound of tongue clicking within that helmet was inaudible. Yet, judging from the results alone, there was no doubt that he had indeed clicked his tongue. Ooh, excuse me. The mass of ice produced by Rem and Amelia, a thin, level sheet of ice, was wedged between Al and Ye, one below and the other above, thus preventing their reconvergence. While maintaining the sturdiness of the ice sheet, it had been stretched to a disk around 30 meters in diameter. It would have been a Herculean task for them to get through it and reunite while falling. And furthermore, since it had been made flat, the threads could not carve through it either. Al sent, Ye, hold out for a bit. Facing each other across the ice sheet, Al ordered Ye from below. What sort of state of mind Ye had arrived at after receiving that was something Rem understood quite distinctly. Rem was participating in this battle for the sake of Subaru, and so, for the same reason as Ye was, when someone precious puts their hopes in you, sets you alight with motivation, you're wrong. With a curt response to Rem's understanding, Ye folded her knees and spun her body, going barefoot. The enormity of the ice sheet resulted in significantly more air resistance, bringing their falling speed to a limit. As Ye landed atop the ice, Rem and Amelia were perched to her front and back, as if pincering her. Barefoot as she was, each of Ye's 10 white toes were equipped with a ring. Once again, magic is quite troublesome. I'm grateful to the teachings of the village elder. Either or. Well, I guess elder village would imply the village itself, so fair enough. That was me fucking up. Thank you so very much for the praise. My mentor was quite an outstanding personage, after all. Same for me. I was always being told, you're learning so quickly, Leah. That's the same way they raised me at the village. So you must also be quite the genius, Amelia-sama. With a bitter smile and a shrug, Ye glanced between Amelia and Rem before prefacing with, so you see, the fact that I'm even here means that y'all's plans have failed. Lol-sama will come rushing over here before long, so why don't we omit the futile exchanges and just have you two surrender? We can't do that. Sure, it was quite a surprise that you were together with him, but Rem and Amelia-sama aren't playing around either. Besides, if you're counting on the Divine Dragon-sama, it won't be coming. Our lord is the one serving as its opponent, after all. This is against the Divine Dragon, you know. Aren't you expecting a bit too much? So, are you not expecting anything from Al? As Ye inclined her head, it seemed as if Amelia's question had pierced her directly. Holding her breath with a Ye then released it, straining her white fingers and toes as if she readied herself. Rem retracted her iron ball to her hands, and Amelia gripped beautiful twin blades of ice. Glancing down at the sheet of ice, the distance with Al, subject to lesser air resistance as he was, continued to widen rapidly. After all, Al was having Ye buy time for him. Amelia-sama, Al says, yeah, I know. We really have to hurry. Reaching an understanding in just a short exchange, Rem harbored an out-of-place sentimentality. She had never conceived of being so in sync with Amelia like this before. Such was her sentimentality. Setting aside Rem's inner feelings, the trio atop the ice silently roused their fighting spirits. Crimson Sakura, Ye Tenzin, Witch of Glaciation, Amelia. The hero's confidant, Rem. She changed her title, that's interesting. Finishing their introductions, Rem and Amelia immediately charged toward Ye across the ice. As Ye bent her knees and ducked down, 20 dancing threads shot from her appendages, and whilst those clashed against the chains and magic, Rem, in order to reach Al below the ice, challenged the one blocking the path to Crimson Sakura. Yeah! Howling a battle cry, Rem was not bluffing or putting up a strong front. She wholeheartedly believed that Rem and their allies, who were taking on Gluttony and the others, as well as Roswell and Klein, who were dealing with the ultimate threat of the Divine Dragon, would all fulfill their respective duties. For that purpose, right now, she would defeat Ye, who stood before her, and reach Al. Passing another marking, there now remained 50 seconds until they reached the floor of the Agzad Canyon. As he plummeted below, Al trained his gaze upon the beautifully tempestuous clash atop the ice. I don't think you'll lose, but don't forget, Alter. After all, this Savannah needs you to do no matter what. That voice whispered only within his mouth, never reached those atop the ice. I do like. Oh, let me take a drink before I mention it. I do like that when the prose is centered around like Amelia's camp, essentially. They refer to they refer to Al as Al, right? But when it is, Aldebaran, in terms of him as a person or anyone in his group, the prose, like if the prose feels more aligned to them, right, to them as a characteristic rather than to, like I said, Amelia's camp, like it feels like it's focused on them, it changes the name over to Aldebaran. I really like that. That is a very interesting, intricate detail that's really fucking fun. Speaking of which, Aldebaran, who had betrayed the sun and his henchmen, battled against the scoundrels who were fully capable of pulling the trigger on the world's collapse, bouts against gluttony in the mountains, and Aldebaran at the Agzad Canyon, both transitioned to their next stages. Naturally, the same applied to the third bout, forecasted to be the most rigorous. By the authority of the Witch of Touristia, newly born into this world, the battlefield had shifted to a rocky region where collateral damage was no concern. There, the one extolled as the guardian of the kingdom, the divine dragon Volcanica, the usurper who had bent that almighty dragon husk to their will, now faced confrontation by its rightful dragonkin. It was a battle in which all fighters were concealing tremendous power, further ravaging the rocky wasteland that was already not more than sand and stone into a place where nobody would ever dare set foot. Unmistakably, those who had seen the scars of war forecasted for such a battle against the divine dragon. However, vision blurred, conscience hazy, ringing in the ears, transcending noisiness to end as silence. Limbs bereft of strength, unsure if both were properly still attached to the body. Each frail breath brought pure brought pain akin to being struck by a flash of lightning from head to toe, likely a sign that fractured bones were tearing up the insides of the body all throughout. Thinking to that extent, they realized that they had collapsed face down on the hard rocky ground. Upon realizing one thing about their current state, other realizations quickly followed. Evidenced by the ground's violent tremors, the sensation of the sky magic bursting asunder, and a faint shift in the scent of the atmosphere, the environment had undergone a tremendous upheaval. So not long had passed since they had collapsed to the ground. A minute, 30 seconds, 5 seconds, master. Report. They were bestowed with an exact answer to their question. However, they lacked the leeway to even curve their lips into a wry smile. The other party had not expected a response either. Nay, it was simply that they were in no position, or not in a position where they could afford to be placing expectations. The tremors on the ground, the bursting of the sky, the upheaval of the atmosphere, all were caused by the tactful other party and their opponent. The battle between dragon and dragonkin ravaged the world as though it were a natural cataclysm, reshaping it for the feats of strength. Off to the side of the battle, not merely half dead, but rather 9/10 dead, they lay collapsed. No longer could they even hear voices properly. The life of Roswell L. Mathers flickered like a candle flame before the wind. Damn. He got fucking washed. I mean, I guess it was to be expected considering the fight, but damn. Alright, and then, yeah, on Thursday we get to finish this up. That was good. That was a good short chapter. I like that. Let me actually go like that art that we saw in the chapter. the two pieces of art, I guess, more accurately. That was good. That was good. I enjoyed that. That was very uh quick note to WCT team. The links are fucked up again for the art sources. The second link leads directly to the same place as the first link. I just want to bring that up. Um, it's kind of unfortunate, but I'll go back later if I have to go like that art. All right. Mm, that was good. That was very nice. That was a good reading session today, and shorter than I imagined. I mean, it's 8 on the nose, so it is relatively the time I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting 8 on the nose. I was expecting like 8:30, right? Considering we started at 5 or like 9. So, you know what? Pretty good. Pretty good. We're getting a lot faster with all this reading, honestly. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that was a good ass chapter. That was a good one. I really liked that previous one. That previous one, you know, it was long, but it was fantastic. Man, that was good. All right, and let me check the word count for these. Um, I know the next chapter has like Roswell's name on it, which is interesting. A name chapter for Roswell is interesting. So 7,000 words next, so that'll be a big one. Given today's, it might not take too long, right? It'll definitely probably take like more than an hour. Oh no, it's not a name chapter, it's magician, which is why I fought that. Um, let's just double check what the next one is. So 7,000 words and 5,000. Okay. Close to 6,000 actually on that one. Okay, so next time on Thursday, we'll have a bit of a long session. That leads me to believe I probably won't record the review in the night, but I can record it on Friday. So there's no issue there. And we can just have it up ready for the weekend, either on Saturday or Sunday. Depends on how, like, in terms of how long it takes me to edit and everything. Probably won't be too long, but we'll see, right? Still, we'll be back Thursday. Got some big chapters to do then, I guess. And yeah, I guess in the meantime, I'm gonna work on Act Two. I'm gonna do some stuff, probably play some shit, right? I've been playing a lot of Squadra, and then I also still need to finish investigations because I'm not done just yet. I'm still in the final case, and I'm going through it a little bit, but you know, it takes time. All right. With that said, though, we're gonna end off here. So take care. Have yourselves a nice night. Stay safe. And yeah, I guess we'll be back Thursday, and we will finish all this up. This was great today. Had a blast. Excited for Thursday. And yeah, again, Thursday stream will probably be just as long. It'll probably be a few hours. So, with that said, have a nice night, peeps, and I'll see you then.